If you're struggling with agoraphobia, you really need to pay attention. Agoraphobia, a lot of people think that it's the fear of going outside or leaving your house. And what happens when people are agoraphobic, they just avoid all those things. They just end up staying inside. Well, here's actually the truth about people struggling with agoraphobia. It's not that they're concerned about going outside, what's outside. They're more concerned about how they feel when they go outside. Many times they fear, well, what happens if I get a certain anxiety symptom? What if I get a panic attack? What if this happens? What if I pass out? And as a consequence of that, they end up avoiding certain places. They may go to a grocery store and then they had a panic attack in the grocery store, so they start avoiding the grocery store. Or they start getting a physical symptom while driving, and then they stop driving, and then slowly and steadily, what ends up happening is that they end up making their world smaller and smaller, and they end up just staying inside. Now, while this may help temporarily, it may ease the anxiety temporarily, the problem is that it actually reinforces the anxiety. What happens is people just end up avoiding, and they just can't stop. And what ends up happening as a consequence is they really reduce their quality of life. So how do you get over agoraphobia? Well, one of the first things you can focus on is really understand how anxiety works. See, it's okay to cope and manage with healthy anxiety, but when anxiety in itself becomes the problem, when you avoid, what happens is that what you resist ends up persisting. And so what happens is your anxiety actually magnifies and gets more intense as a consequence of avoiding it. So the first step is really understanding how anxiety works. Once you understand, then it's about exposure. It's about going back and living your life. And rather than avoiding the anxiety, being able to respond to the anxiety, being able to respond to panic attacks, being able to respond to intrusive thoughts or physical symptoms. Now, do this long enough, and what happens is that the anxiety ends up subsiding. At first, it's going to be yelling at you. It's going to be saying, why are you doing this? Why are you going out? What if there's danger? But if you understand how anxiety works, well, then you know how to respond. And as a consequence, you end up focusing on long-term freedom, and all of this ends up going away. So the key is this. It's very important to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Now, the consequences of that is that you feel actual comfort as a consequence of this, and you can go back to living your life fully and freely without this ever becoming an issue. To learn more, check the comments.